Hello and welcome to YCFT. I don't know when this one's coming out, but it's a really warm day in the UK and I am actually dying.
Kudos.
It's
to
32
David,
degrees
right?
outside and I'm wearing a latex mask.
It's fucking hot, guys. It's really hot.
We are talking about... When did this film come out?
This came out in 1954.
We are doing Creature from the Black Lagoon.
If you couldn't guess.
It's one of those things like how well known is it? I gotta get this off. I actually have to get this off.
Alright, let's sort this out. We've established it's easy to get on. Getting it off is a bit of a different matter. I think that was a record.
Honestly. Has anyone ever seen Goosebumps?
Let's put it on the thing.
Yeah, I'm saying if anyone seen Goosebumps with the haunted mask, the one that becomes her skin and she can't get it off, that is what that felt like.
Was that every little bit of hell you imagined it to be?
Yeah, and we're back. And like with our Bride of Frankenstein one, this one needs to be black and white. Yes, so this came out in 1954. And this is another one of those films, like with Bride of Frankenstein. I think it's just worth remembering and talking about.
And chatting about.
Because it's a really good film, guys.
It is. It is. It's a creature feature. It's a monster movie. And it's still, obviously, it's a 50s film. So, there's elements of it being quite dated in parts. But as a film, it holds up very, very well.
It really does.
As a monster movie, I think it holds up well.
As a monster movie, this one does really well. And it's one of those I'm quite surprised hasn't came back in the way you'd expect with reboots. Because we have this film, then there's 2 sequels.
There were 2 sequels, and I believe I wrote down the name. Yeah, we have Revenge of the Creature only a year later, 1955, and then we have The Creature Walks Among Us, which was a year after that, in 1956. So they were bashing out these films.
Yeah, obviously part of the Universal Monsters. You said this one was initially recorded in 3D.
It was filmed in 3D.
But it was at the end of the 3D craze, so most audiences actually saw it in 2D.
The 3D craze, from what I can gather, basically lasted about a year. It started in 53 and then it definitely finished in 54, I think. The only other film I can name from that time is House of Wax, the old Vincent Price movie. That was a 3D film as well.
The best way I could describe this thing is Beauty and the Beast if she rejected the Beast.
Yes.
So we have a group of explorers, paleontologists.
Yeah, they're scientists. It starts off that we're in this geology expedition in the Amazon, and this team discovers some kind of amphibian fossilized hand.
Yeah, webbed hand.
That also looks pretty humanoid.
Yeah, I also really like how this movie starts. It basically starts at the dawn of time, and it's as we kind of know, life came from the sea. Yeah, the sea had footprints. So it basically leads you through the earth up to this point.
It does, yeah. And so, based on the discovery of that hand, another expedition is funded to go back and find more evidence. To see if they can find the rest of the hand, basically.
Find another creature of this. And we see the creature, or at least the hand of the creature, really early on.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, anytime you see the creature, it goes, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Just in case.
They don't ease you into it.
Because you think that the creature's for the most part benign.
Well, I think it's up for debate.
Because he kills the 2 left. The scientist leaves his 2 assistants there to guard the camp while he goes to be like, we need to explore this, and the creature dispatches of them pretty quickly.
It starts off with the creature clearly being curious about this group of people that have come on his turf, basically. He doesn't attack them. He's just kind of curious about them. And then, we have this one night where these 2 assistants are in their tent, and we see the creature go into the tent. Now, we had to rewind it because we couldn't remember exactly what happened, the timing. But it turns out that, obviously, these 2 assistants are panicked, and they start throwing things and hurling things at the creature. And it's only at that point that the creature attacks. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think it's up for debate if he is actually quite benign and he just retaliates to violence, or if he is inherently quite violent.
Later on, he could have attacked the 2 divers when they were in the water. Later on, when we first see the creature in full. But when what's the name of the lead actress?
What, the character or the actress?
Both.
The character is called Kay.
K. Just K.
Yeah, just Kay. I don't have the name of the actress.
When the creature discovers Kay swimming dangerously far away from the boat in this realistically uncharted area of the Amazon, this creature's obviously never seen a female before.
Not like that.
I mean, it must breed in some way because...
It must do, yeah. We haven't seen the sequels, by the way, so that might be explained. We're not sure.
So it becomes infatuated with her, and then it does start to become quite violent to any of the males that are in the way of it trying to get to her.
Yes.
Production-wise, it's very similar to a lot of the Universal Monsters stuff.
It is.
But what really stands out is the underwater sequences.
Oh, yeah, they are.
And the behind-the-scenes pictures you can see of them are really cool.
They're truly great.
And even though it's black and white, a lot of the pictures have been recolorized to show that it would have been like... The suit was like a mixture of brown and green.
And green. Yeah.
But the underwater sequences are so cool because he later became known as the Gill-man. Didn't he? He's not known... There's a reason behind that, isn't there?
Yes, yeah.
And we'll get to that later. Yeah. He's played by two people.
So in the underwater sequences, he's played by a stuntman called Rico Browning. And then any land sequences, he's portrayed by a guy called Ben Chapman.
Yeah. Rico played him in all three films.
All the underwater sequences?
All the underwater sequences across 3 films, it was Rico.
Okay.
Different guy in every other film played him on land.
On land.
The underwater sequences, I said, they are gorgeous. We have long... They clearly can tell like this stuff looks good because there's long sequences and scenes with her swimming and him swimming underneath. Cinematography-wise, it just looks so cool.
I think that whole sequence is kind of one of the most memorable, I guess, of the whole film because, she... At this point, the creature, he's followed them into the Black Lagoon, which is this part of the Amazon, which is kind of like a no-go zone. They've been warned, the expeditionists, that if you go there, you won't come back.
Yeah, so obviously people have been attacked. So they go there because they think that they failed to find the rest of the fossil. Yeah. And they think that maybe over time part might have broken off and travelled to the end where this lagoon is.
So they go and explore this particular part of the Amazon, and Kay, who is the girlfriend of one of the doctors, she's in a relationship with a guy called David. And she goes for a little swim in the lagoon. And I think it's one of probably the most famous sequences where we see her swimming in the water. She's underneath the water. She's breaking the surface. And the creature underneath, like by the seabed, he notices her. Yeah. And he starts swimming with her.
It's almost like he's dancing. Because he kind of goes to touch and then he doesn't quite know what to make of this situation. It's so open to interpretation.
It really is. But I mean, I think primarily it is like a seduction scene. He's so curious about what he's seeing, and he clearly likes what he's seeing, and yet he could have attacked her, but he chooses not to. So there is definitely intelligence with this creature. And there's this really kind of almost sweet scene where he touches her foot and then he instantly backs away, and then he touches it again and then he swims away, almost bashful.
Again, it's obviously I remember reading an interview with him, said usually if you're swimming underwater with air, usually it's about 4 minutes. But when you're in this prosthetics, a suit, put that down to about 2 minutes. He couldn't have just been holding his breath for these scenes. But at the same time, I don't know how they would have got air to him.
I honestly
But those scenes, there's so much personality in his movements.
There is. It's almost quite sweet.
Compared to like the land stuff, which, no offense to Ben Chapman, but he moves like the Mummy. Yeah. You can tell it's a creature that is more comfortable in the water.
Yes, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And obviously this creature, even we only had those 3 films and he's never quite made a full-on appearance, he has become quite famous in pop culture. I'd say most recently would be in Tom Cruise's The Mummy, where, everyone knows how bad that film, but when they went through the lab, which is basically, this is what all the spin-offs are going to be, which never ended up happening, you see the hand in a jar. They were going to do Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, it was teased, I guess, wasn't it?
Yeah. Guillermo del Toro loves this. You could argue in Hellboy, Abe Sapien is very similar to the creature. He watched this film as a child. He said he felt bad for the monster. Because, we might as well spoil it. This film's like really old now. It's like 70 years old. Spoiler warning. He captures Kay. And the funny thing, Ben Chapman said he had no peripheral vision while he was wearing the suit. So he actually, while he's carrying her to his grotto, he bashes her head off the fake rocks. Yeah. So she basically nearly knocked her out.
Oopsie-daisy.
Because he just couldn't see what he was doing. Yeah. And they don't end up together. She is not attracted. She is terrified
yes,
of him.
He's a big fish. He is a walking fish.
Yeah, but once the expedition gets wind of him, they're like, oh, this is much better than the fossil. One of them in particular, who's obviously running it and is thinking, we need, the money always helps these type of things. We need a proper discovery. Becomes a bit obsessed with capturing him.
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't end up together. They don't have...
no, they don't.
It's actually it's really sad.
It is actually quite sad, yeah.
But in proper Universal film and Hammer horror, I'd say, the film just ends. Something happens and then it just ends.
It's one of those, it's just so, like...
We only have X amount of film, come on.
Exemplary of those kind of films, It's like we start and we're just like right in the action, like they don't ease you into the creature,
and then it just ends. It just ends.
Oh, he's
having the intro of the Earth being formed is probably the longest we've had to like a proper intro to a film.
Yeah.
I just remembered why I started that point in the first place. Del Toro as a child watched it and he said he always felt sad that the creature didn't end up where he thought they should have ended up together.
Yeah.
Now Universal wanted him to do... He pitched an idea to do a reboot because they was part of their Dark Universe, which obviously didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
They had a couple of false starts and then just didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
He pitched this idea where they do get together and they didn't want to go for it. That idea basically became The Shape of Water, which... Because he had to come out and say it, he is not Abe Sapien. He is heavily inspired by Creature from the Black Lagoon. That is the version of the film that he wanted to make. So to me, it's like an unofficial sequel to Creature.
I suppose in a way, yeah.
Because the design is very similar, and he got to tell the love story the way he wanted to.
Yeah.
That's what the biggest homage to it.
It is basically.
But the creature himself has never fully returned.
Well,
interestingly, Doug Jones obviously played Abe Sapien.
Yeah, he did. Doug Jones plays
the Gill-man.
The Gill-man, yeah.
Now, the Gill-man name is because another reference. He does make an appearance in the Monster Squad.
Yes.
Monster Squad wanted to be a farewell to the Universal Monsters, but Universal didn't want to go for it.
Yeah.
So none of the characters can legally be called by their real names. And that is where the Gill-man comes from. Because he can't be the creature from the Black Lagoon.
No. So it was actually Monster Squad that kind of unofficially gave him that name. Yeah. Up until then, he was just the creature.
Have you got any other references? I think you mentioned a Scooby-Doo one, didn't you, when we were researching?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's loads. I mean, in terms of the interest of, trying to maybe do a sequel or whatever, a reboot of this film. In 1992, John Carpenter was attached to develop a remake at one point. Peter Jackson expressed interest in the 90s. Ivan Reitman expressed interest also in the mid-90s. I don't know if this was to do a reboot or, or whatever, but all these big names were attached. So clearly these are guys that grew up watching and loving this film. But yeah, Del Toro was, I guess, he's the closest that's ever really come to doing something with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this film is referenced quite a few times across pop culture. Yeah, the Scooby-Doo one, I think it's Ghoul School, and you can clearly see there's a Gill-man type creature in that film. He goes to pick up his daughter from the Ghoul School, but he's not green, he's orange, and that was clearly like for some kind of copyright reasons, I think. But physically, it is the Gill-man.
So he's well known, even before, I only watched this not too long ago for the first time, and I knew of the creature.
Yeah.
I just hadn't ever seen it.
I think it's one of the best posters also.
Oh, I love the poster.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the poster. And I always like how on the Ben Chapman's suit, the way the gills move, like when he breathes and... It's cool. It's very cool.
Just another reference that I really, really like. The famous Marilyn Monroe movie, 7 Year Itch. That's the one, where she's standing above the subway and her dress lifts up, that movie. So in that film, she goes on a date with a guy and they go to see a film. And they come out from watching Creature from the Black Lagoon. And Marilyn laments to her date that she thought it was very sad because, quote, he just wanted to be loved.
He just wanted to be loved. He just wants to be loved. He finds someone he's interested in. He's probably been alone for a long time.
Yeah, that's the thing. And like, when we look at the human characters, it's kind of one of those films, I suppose, where it sort of invites you to ask the question, who's the real sort of monster here? Because, for the most part, these are very interesting human characters, but there is this one guy called Mark, and he's like the douchey one. He's the one that's like, oh, we need to kill this thing and bring it back.
Yeah, he wants to capture it, doesn't he?
He wants to capture it, but isn't there a point where he's like, I don't care if we kill it.
Yeah.
I just want to bring it back. And he also starts flirting with Kay, and, he's the one, I guess, that's like...
Yeah.
He's like the morally ambiguous one of the group. And yeah, the film, I suppose, is like, in a nutshell, civilized man versus primitive man. So yeah, I suppose it is up for debate how benign the creature ultimately is. But at the end of the day, these people have come into its territory. He's curious about them. All he realises is that they're quite hostile to him. And he doesn't really, I guess, understand the concept of stealing someone else's girl.
Yeah, he doesn't.
I don't think he really understands consent. But, he's a big fish. So
It's I think you always have to look at like first contact with an alien.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
there's no communication, because they don't try to communicate with it.
No, exactly. Can I talk a little bit about the design of the?
Yes, because there's an interesting controversy around that.
There is. So the actual creature, I think, was designed in theory by a Disney animator who's called Millicent Patrick. Now, her involvement in the design was ultimately kind of downplayed and has been downplayed over the years by a makeup artist called Bud Westmore. And for some reason, I don't know why, but Bud Westmore is the one that received sole credit, whereas actually it should have probably jointly gone to this lady called Millicent Patrick. A guy called Jack Kevan, who also worked on The Wizard of Oz in some of the costumes and special effects there. He did prosthetics for amputees in World War II. He actually created prosthetics for them, and he created the bodysuit. Yeah. So from what I gather, I think Millicent, maybe Bud, designed like the overall thing. Jack did the prosthetic. He did the bodysuit.
So they designed it, and then he worked out how to do it. And then this other guy called Chris Mueller Jr., he created the head. Yeah. So we've got different people working on different parts Ben Chapman
of
said
the creature.
That the suit, basically it was impossible. He couldn't bend his knees in it, so it was impossible for him to sit down. So, because a lot of the film was shot, I think a lot of it was shot in Florida. Some of the boat scenes were shot in Florida. Then you have some of the Universal backlot. Yeah. He spent a lot of time in the fake lagoon they'd made. Yes. Just lying down in the water and being hosed down because it was also really hot.
Yes, I could. Yeah. Oh my god.
And I think he was in the suit for 14 hours a day.
God. Can you imagine?
So that was. I don't think it was as bad for Rico because he's underwater for all this.
Because he's underwater. But I mean, the underwater shots. I mean, he's underwater for a considerable amount of time. Yeah. I mean that. I'm just going to call it like the seduction scene. I mean, he's doing a lot of like intricate kind of movements with her there, and that would have been. I know, obviously, he would have been a very skilled diver,
but in that suit,
you
can't see differences really between the suit. Like a level of detail isn't on the underwater one as there is on them. Yeah, I always find there's a bit where like he stood in shallow water when they kind of first see him revealed, and then he kind of just needs to dive, and obviously he can't move very well, so he's kind of goes. Yeah. He just kind of flops forward into the water.
I know, and I do like the story, because it turns out that the Gill-man, when he eventually kidnaps Kay at the end and he dives back into the lagoon with her, there is some kind of like secret passage that leads to a dry bit of land. Yeah. And he takes her there, and yeah, you mentioned it, where he just couldn't see where he was going, so he kept on like bashing her head against the set. The poor guy. Poor guys. But yeah, it's a great film, isn't it?
Yeah, it's another one we like with Bride of Frankenstein. We think people should definitely track down, and I think it's time for a new one. Like obviously it's a Shape of Water. We've had like homages to it, but I think it's time for a new one.
Just outright remake it, do you think, or continue the story?
Again, we don't know where the story for the other two go, and I think maybe it might be time for just a new one. Yeah. Entirely. Because Invisible Man is the new start of the Dark Universe. I think we are getting a Wolfman. I do think it's time because we're now so separated from a true Creature from the Black Lagoon film that there's so many that won't know who he is. They might recognise him because he's so synonymous in pop culture. But I think it's time for a brand new one.
I think it's that thing.
Like, why do we always need another Dracula, another Frankenstein, another Dr. Jekyll? We literally haven't had one of these in 70 years.
It's interesting, the evolution of monster movies and creature features, because...
If you notice how far my mic has dropped.
I know.
I'm going to move that up.
In a way, I think creature features have kind of died out. They were obviously very big, 40s, 50s, even in the 60s, I suppose, because people the idea of a monster was quite quite scary. Obviously now in like, you know, evolved society, an amphibious fishman is not necessarily a scary concept.
Yeah.
So I think there's always that worry, isn't there, of like how scary can we actually make this?
You'd have to make you'd have to make the film longer, because the film's only an hour 10 minutes.
Yeah,
it's not a long film at all. They weren't back then. I'd have it where the first half of the film is exactly how it is in the original, but I think they successfully capture him.
Oh.
And he ends up in an aquarium, and then we lead into like almost like the Shape of Water-esque thing and have him maybe escape.
Because I think also when we have a sort of Beauty and the Beast-esque horror, which I know don't really come around too often, but say in The Shape of Water, obviously she does end up falling in love with the fish.
I think if they were to do another one, we couldn't maybe have some sympathise with him, but not fall in love with him.
What I was just going to say though, because
otherwise they're just remaking The Shape of Water then.
But her character, isn't it kind of posited that she herself has gills? Like at the beginning, doesn't she have like some kind of strange breathing?
Honestly, I can't remember.
I think they kind of insinuate that she herself is she's not like entirely human, or there's something. I thought
he gave them to her.
I can't remember, but something happens.
Yeah.
Something happens. He either helps her with that, or she's born that way. I'm gonna look into that, and you know, like even in Beauty and the Beast itself, the story, the beast has to revert back to human, even though she does fall in love with him as a beast. It's like it's okay because he turns back human. I just think it would be cool if like you had a bit of a human and fish. Don't you think?
No, it's weird. That's that whole thing of like, it's the whole thing of like people falling in love with mermaids, and it's like, well, the bottom half is a fish, so what are you going to do there?
Well, that's it. That's like in Splash.
Yeah.
But he ends up being able to breathe.
I think you can have a sympathetic. The fish might fall in love with whoever saves him, but it can't work. They're too different because they're too different.
We're pitching two different films here, yeah. I think.
But I think it is time, and I have so much fun rewatching this movie. I just love the da-da-da every time you see his hand coming through a window. Yeah. It's like back then. It's like the music had to tell you what you were seeing. It's like I can see the hand.
Yeah, exactly. And we see the hand like not even like a full 5 minutes into the film. It's you know, like 2 minutes, maybe even less. Just this weird webbed hand kind of crawling out, and there's no subtlety in these old films. No. It's just, you know, it's got to be big and bold, and I love it. It's we'll never see that style again, I don't think, but the story itself can be retold. Yeah, perhaps. Yeah,
can be retold, can be modernised a bit, but
can be modernised.
I am interested in the sequels.
I think I would love to check them out. I don't know how easy they are to find, but I'm sure we'll you know. Yeah. We'll find a way. Yeah, in
our quest to watch more old movies.
Watch more old movies.
Then to tell you fine people about them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this one is definitely worth watching, I think.
Yeah. In fact, I just thought this video is going to come out after the Camp Scare one, so I can... Everyone who watches this channel knows we record in bulk, and I never know when they're coming out. But that was the first one where I called off viewers yellow bellies.
Yeah.
For yellow couch, yellow bellies. I don't know if that's worked or not, but I'm laying the seeds down there again.
We're sticking with it.
Yeah.
We're sticking with it, guys.
Yeah. So all you yellow bellies out there, check it out. Yeah. It's on. We watched on Amazon Prime. This one, like Bride of Frankenstein, it's probably all on. I'm pretty sure the entirety of the film is on YouTube.
It could be. It could very well be.
Even if you just want to get a bit more of an appreciation for how far cinema has come and how like. I always find the performances really interesting. They're always more stage-like.
They're always very melodramatic, aren't they? And the way they deliver the lines, it is very staged, very theatrical. Yeah.
But I just look like, even going back then, I think the design of the creature is way more interesting than the likes of like Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman.
Oh, 100%.
It's so at the time it was extremely unique.
Yeah. Just you got me thinking there about the performance, and there's a scene in this film. I feel like there's a scene like this in every film from the 50s with a woman where she's shocked or where she's seen something that, you know, by today's standards not really that bad, but by those times it was shocking. Like I think she sees a body like pop up in the lagoon, and she does that thing, you know, as she like you know, like she has to just turn away so melodramatically, and the fist clench in the jaw.
So who do you say the star of the film is? Because I'd say it's the creature.
I think it's Gill-man. Yeah. We start the film with Gill-man, we end the film with Gill-man. You know, it's kind of he falls in love in this film. He goes through some stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's Gill-man's story all the way.
I just love how, obviously, like I said, it takes two people to play this role.
Yeah.
And it is the underwater scenes, I think, that make it more memorable. Because I think a lot of the online stuff, as much as it's cool, doesn't really differentiate from any other monster movie.
No.
But the underwater stuff is so beautiful. It's amazingly
really,
shot.
It is beautiful, actually.
It sets it apart.
It does. Yeah. It's an interesting film.
And also the influence this film had on popular culture and a young Guillermo del Toro.
I can just imagine, Del Toro watching this as a kid, and it comes to the end, and, again, they don't end up together, and Del Toro just, like, throwing stuff on the floor, just in a fit of anger. The injustice of the world. The fish doesn't end up with the beautiful woman. So he's like, I'm going to write that wrong.
The fish, he has no genitals.
No, he doesn't have genitals.
He's naked through this entire film.
Yeah, he is.
So it's curious. That's what I mean, like,
how do they reproduce?
Because we only see him, but if there's a fossil, then there has to have been ones in the past. He might be very old. He
could be, but how do they reproduce?
We don't get a lot of context.
No. And he is clearly attracted to Kay.
Yeah.
I don't just think it's the fact that he's curious that, she doesn't look like me. I think there is there's a desire that's there. So, I think we need to watch the sequels and sort of see how
if they even go into it.
Into that, yeah.
Do you got any more notes?
No more other notes. Only to also check out the poster for this film too,
yeah,
because it's truly one of the best.
It truly is one of the best, and
it is gorgeous.
Like back then, we just had such great posters. We are entering a time now of a lot of really nicely digitally painted posters.
Yeah,
which is good. We're moving away from the just character standing with their back to us.
Yes. Exactly.
We're moving into a nice, fun time of posters, but they're nothing like what they were back then.
No, they just used to pop, and they were so vibrant, and I just love them. I used to try and collect old movie posters, and I want this one.
Yeah,
I want this one in our collection.
I'm glad I managed to track this down.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun with
I was
when it's maybe winter.
I know it's so warm. It smells of latex, and because it's warm here as well.
The thing is, if this comes out like in wintertime or autumn time,
it doesn't make any sense.
This won't make any sense. but
I feel like it's going to become part of our set dressing now. Obviously. So, thanks for stopping by, guys. We hope you enjoyed this one. Please check this movie out.
Go check it out, guys, and go and cool down.
Let us know what other. Obviously, like I said, we've done Bride of Frankenstein now. We've done Creature from the Black Lagoon. What other older movie would you want us to check out and watch? Because usually these were watched like the past two. Like Bride, I'd watched for the first time before that. I know you'd seen it in the past.
I had seen it in the past. There's other Frankenstein movies. Obviously, there's The Mummy. There's so many of the Dracula, the original Dracula.
Yeah, but there is so many out there that we might need a little bit of help just on which one to do next.
It's hard trying to navigate it. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's just so many. We haven't even touched on Hammer yet.
No, and that is a must.
So I personally wouldn't mind doing The Wolfman next.
I've seen. Have you seen it? The original.
No,
Wolfman?
I haven't.
I have seen that one, the black and white one.
So thanks for stopping by, guys. We will see you next week.